I'm sure that many of you would like to be a celebrity, live the good life, be rich, have a nice home, be envied by everyone. But there's a downside of being a celebrity, and that is that there are stalkers. There are people out there that stalk celebrities, and it can be dangerous, and you're always looking over your shoulder. You don't know where they are, when they're going to come after you. We're going to be examining two cases, both I worked on at various stages, one involving Madonna and another with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas. I think you're going to find it fascinating what they had to go through with stalkers. You may reconsider whether you really want to be a celebrity and go through what they had to. So let's get into the facts. Well, what is our topic today? Stalking the stars, better known as the Robert Dewey Haskins case and the Danette K case. Well, we're going to be talking about two separate celebrities. You know both of them, Madonna, and we're going to be also talking about Catherine Zeta-Jones. Now, everybody wants to be a celebrity. What a wonderful life they have. They live well. They have their mansions. They have cars, and they fly around in their own jet airplanes. Yeah, life is good for them, and they're admired. Everyone admires them, and they envy the life that that celebrity has. Well, however, there's another side to it you may want to consider, and that is a celebrity. You lose your personal privacy and the privacy of your family, because there's going to be paparazzi around all the time, taking pictures day and night. You have no privacy. But most of all, it's the stalking. The stalking that can be so dangerous. And how can it be dangerous? Well, the obsessed fans, and we go back to Teresa Saldana back in 1982, and she was being stalked by a man from Scotland, Arthur Jackson, who came all the way over to Los Angeles to stab her. And then we have the case of Rebecca Schaefer in 1989, where this Robert Bardo, he was successful. He was able to shoot and kill her. So yeah, stalking can be dangerous. Now let's get into this case regarding the stalking of Madonna. And this is her stalker. So let's get to know Madonna. We think we know who she was. Well, this is her name, her real name, Madonna Louisa Ciccone. And she was born in 1958 and grew up in Bay City, Michigan. So that was her background, and she started out as a dancer in New York. She came there to get discovered, but in order to make some money, she had to work at Dunkin' Donuts. We don't think of Madonna at Dunkin' Donuts, but she did. She eventually formed her own band, and she was really into the drums. She played the guitar, but how would you describe Madonna in her occupation? Is she a singer, songwriter, a dancer, an actress, or even an author? Well, she's many, many people, and she has many titles. Most of us think of her as the material girl, the queen of pop, and she is certainly famous for all of her albums, but also acting. She was involved in Evita. Back in 1996, she won a Golden Globe for Best Actress. So she's done many, many different roles and had many tours over the years. So we all have an idea who Madonna is, but let's get to know the stalker, Robert Dewey Haskins. Now, he's 39 and, what would you call him? A homeless, a drifter. He just didn't quite fit in. And this is, what he says about Madonna. He said, "She had better marry me or I'm going to slice her throat from ear to ear." Not very endearing, but that is what he would say about her. And where was she living at the time? Well, she was living right below the Hollywood sign in Hollywood, just off of Mulholland Drive. And there were a number of incidents, and we're going to go through several of them so you have an idea of what stalking is all about. And the first one was on April 7th, 1995. He came by her place where she was living under the Hollywood sign there, and he tried to climb up the driveway here, and he got halfway up, and the security people who were monitoring the perimeter of her estate, they noticed him coming up the driveway, and so they went out and confronted him, and when they came there, he took off running. They got a good look at him, but they didn't catch up with him because he was long gone into the bushes of the Hollywood Hills. So the second incident occurs 11 days later, and he reappears, and he comes up, and there's the camera there, and he's able to get to the gate there, and there's a call box there, and he talks in the call box, and he threatens the assistant. He's demanding to see Madonna, and the secretary there says, no, you can't see her, and he keeps threatening and saying all sorts of things to her if she doesn't, comply. So eventually, the secretary assistant contacts the bodyguard who was with Madonna, and they were out riding bicycles in the hills there, and comes over there, and the bodyguard confronts him and says, what are you doing here? And he said, well, I've got this letter I want to give to Madonna. And he takes it, and he puts it on the call box, or the box there, and that's what it said. Madonna to Louisa Ciccone, I love you. Will you be my wife for keeps? Robert Dewey Hoskins. On the other side of it, it said, I'm very sorry. Meet me somewhere. Love for keeps. Robert Dewey Hoskins. Be mine and I'll be yours. Well, he leaves that, and he's kind of threatening the bodyguard there. And then Madonna rides up on her bicycle, right in front of him. And she had been on this just off of Mulholland Drive and riding her bicycle. And he didn't recognize her. She was in sweatpants, and she had a baseball cap on. And he walked right by her and didn't say a word. He leaves. Now, the third incident occurs 11 days later, and he comes back. This time, Madonna is not at the house. She is back in New York. And he comes up, and he gets on, trying to climb over the fence here, and you can see where it's bent, where the red circle is. He used that pole to propel himself to the top of the wall there, and it broke and bent the pipe. So he finally gets in, and he climbs all the way up the driveway to her backyard. And this is Madonna's pool. This is right in the back of her house, and it looks over the skyline of Los Angeles. And he takes off his backpack, and he starts taking his clothes off, and he starts swimming in Madonna's pool. And he's doing laps back and forth in her pool. And eventually the security guard comes out and says, hey, what are you doing here? What are you doing? You can't do this. And he comes back up to the security guard and gets out of the pool, and there's a struggle. He goes for the security guard who has a gun, and he has holstered his gun, but there's a struggle over the gun. And it's about in that area where the red circle is. The gun goes off, and the stalker is struck. He's struck 3 times. And after he's taken to the hospital, they look around and they find this is what he came up there to leave for Madonna. And it says, to my wife Madonna, love you, Robert Hoskins. And on the backside it says, our God for keeps. So this was the trinket that he had. He was leaving for her. Now, as I say, he was taken to the hospital. He was arrested, and he had been shot 3 times, but not seriously. They were more grazing wounds that he suffered. Now, he was prosecuted for stalking, and this is the stalking law, the wording of it. A person willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly followed another person, and that means the celebrity. The person following or harassing made a credible threat. And the third element of it is the person made the threat, did so with the specific intent to place the other person in reasonable fear. So that is the stalking law, and that was what he was prosecuted for. Now, in court, these are the charges, and you can see there is the complaint against him, and there were 5 counts: the stalking, the threats, and the assault on the various occasions. So the case was set for trial, and they had to subpoena Madonna to come in to testify. And here you can see the detective going out there to take the subpoena out to her. But every time she refused to accept the service, and she said, "No, I'm too busy. I'm too busy. I can't go to our court. I've got too many things going on right now." So the case came up, and she wasn't available. She hadn't been subpoenaed, and so the case was dismissed. Oh, wow. It's dismissed, and he's going to go free. However, it was pretty serious what had happened, and he kept coming back. It wasn't once, it wasn't twice, it was 3 times he tried to get to her. So the DA's office refiled the complaint, which they can do since prejudice hadn't attached to it as yet. So the case is refiled, and they need personal service of Madonna. You know, the material girl is a material witness to this case, and she is needed. But she continually refuses. And the case is about to go for the second time. Now, this time it will be dismissed with prejudice and will not be able to be refiled. So that is the situation. And the detectives needed to serve her, and they couldn't do it. However, they heard the word, "The dog has been shipped." And that meant that she was coming back from New York, and she would be there the next day. So the detectives were out there, and they were waiting for her, and she was out jogging with her trainer, and they were driving where that red circle is. They were coming up there, and the 2 detectives came up next to her and said, "Ma'am, here is the subpoena. You have to come to court." And she takes it, and she throws it down, and she stomps on it, and just walks away. "No, no way, no how. I'm not going to do it." And she doesn't. So the next day, the DA went into court and said, "I want a body attachment for Madonna," meaning an arrest warrant for her for not being willing to show up. And the judge says, "Okay, how do you have proof of service?" And the DA handed the judge this subpoena with her footprint on it. And the judge looked at it and said, "Hey, that looks good to me." He issues a body attachment for arrest for $5 million. Well, it wasn't long before Madonna was on the phone calling the DA's office saying, wait, what are you doing?" And the DA's office said, "Okay, we'll place you on call, but you have to come to court when we need you." And she agreed to it. So she did. On the day that she was to testify, she comes in and she testifies. And she said to the court, "It makes me feel incredibly disturbed that the man who threatened to kill me is sitting across the room from me in court." So this was her testimony in court. And she went on to say, the court is making his fantasies come true, because that's what he wanted. He wanted to see Madonna and be with Madonna, and he was. And she went on explaining that, she has all sorts of nightmares about the incident, and she tells, hey, I'm going to sell my house. I'm getting out of here. So that was her testimony. And then when it came time for the defense took a different approach. When they argued the case, they said, oh, Madonna, she's just trying to be a prima donna, and she's merely acting. And they went on and on about she just can't stop acting. Well, the whole excuse of the defense is the only reason charges were filed was because Hoskins was shot, and they just want to protect the bodyguard from being sued. So that was their defense, and the results of the trial, it was very short deliberation, only 4.5 hours. They came back guilty on all charges. So he was convicted of all these charges, and at time now this just goes to show his obsession for her. This was his jail cell, and you can see how obsessed he was with Madonna, and it continued. And he indicated, when he gets out, he's going to get a gun and go after them. Well, he received 10 years in state prison, and he served part of the time, and eventually at the end, a judge then sent him to a psychiatric unit at Atascadero, and that's where he was for a long time, and was held in a state hospital. So, just to kind of bring you up to date, well, Madonna had to come to court because of what's called the Constitution, which says that an accused person has a right of confrontation, meaning the accuser has to come to court and testify in front of the defendant. An inconvenience, but I'm just trying to explain for a celebrity. Look at the difficulty that it causes for celebrities who have to come to court to testify against the stalker. Now, what type of stalker was he? Well, he was a little different than the usual one. This is what he is defined as, an erotomanic. It's a person who believes he has a relationship with a celebrity. But these types of people can be extremely dangerous. So, as far as what has happened, this is her place. Here's my wife and myself at the gate of Madonna. She moved out of there, even though she had a very nice home there. And this was where, she refused to accept the subpoena. And when it was handed to her, she stepped on it, and that was used in court, and she had to come in and testify. So that was the case of Madonna. And our next case involves Catherine Zeta Jones. She was born in 1969, kind of grew up in Swansea, Wales, UK girl. And I think she was about 10 years old. She kind of got started doing performances, and she did Annie in a rendition, and then eventually when she was 14, Pajama Game. But she really got interested in studying music, and eventually got a lead in 42nd Street. But her movie career began with The Mask of Zorro, and she played that role and was great. People recognized her, very vivacious. And then she went on in 2000 in Traffic, and there she met Michael Douglas. He was in the movie, and she got Best Supporting Actress in her role in that. But where she really got fame and everybody recognized her was in Chicago. The movie Chicago in 2002. She played that role, and people loved her kind of a bitchy saloon goddess. And she won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. And she was only 33 years old when she won that award. So quite a career she's getting off to. Now, she does some movies with George Clooney in 2003 and 2004. Intolerable Cruelty in Ocean's 12. And as I say, she came in contact with Michael Douglas, and they met at, it was a film festival, and she was just 29 years old at the time. And he had a line that he used on her, and you think about it. How would you be impressed with this line? He said to her, "I'd like to father your children." For some reason, Catherine Zeta-Jones was not impressed with that approach. And it took a while, a lot of flowers, a lot of candy, for him to get back in her good graces. Even though there were 25 years between the two of them, their birthdays were on the same date. So they got married in 2000. They had 2 children, Dylan and Carrie. So that was the family. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Michael Douglas had his own career, not from his father, Kurt Douglas, but he did a TV series called Streets of San Francisco. Very, very popular. And then he went on to produce One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The China Syndrome. Then it was Romancing the Stone. His career just went on, one movie after another. Fatal Attraction, Wall Street, and of course, everybody remembers him from Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone. So quite a career Michael Douglas had. Now we're going to talk about Catherine Zeta-Jones and the Stalker. Well, the stalking begins because the stalker is in love with Michael, and she wants to marry Michael. But how is she going to do it? And she realizes she's going to have to get rid of Catherine. Now, how is she going to do it? She's going to have to kill Catherine, or is there another way? She's trying to figure out a way. She knows there's this prenuptial agreement between Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas. Catherine was no fool. She knew that Michael liked to womanize. So she made Michael sign this prenuptial agreement that he would pay her $20 million if he fooled around and engaged with sexual relations with other women. So she realized having an affair with Michael isn't going to work. That is not going to work out. So what the stalker had to do is find a way of discrediting Catherine. And if she could, then it would be Catherine who is breaking that prenuptial agreement. So she's thinking about Catherine Zeta-Jones. She's played a number of roles against George Clooney. So now she claims Catherine Zeta-Jones is having an affair with George Clooney. And she starts sending letters. She doesn't know how to get those letters to Michael, but she sends it to Kurt Douglas, the father. And this is just one of the notes. It says, "I hope you know that the baby Catherine's carrying is not Michael's at all. It's George Clooney's. Just wait and see in April." And another note, "Dear Mr. Douglas, what is wrong with your daughter-in-law? Why is she smoking when she is pregnant? She is what one would call trailer trash." Well, you generally don't think of Catherine Zeta-Jones as trailer trash, but the stalker did. And the letters became more threatening as time went by. And it says, "I will hire people to kill her." And then he goes on, "If she loves life, treat Michael right." A lot of threats are being made, and it became very clear in this one, it's George she loves. "We will kill Catherine Zeta-Jones soon." Well, you can see how it is advancing, but getting more threatening, more dangerous, but she's not successful. She's not getting to Michael. So what is she going to do? She's getting desperate, and she learns that he's putting on a golf tournament in Las Vegas. It's a celebrity golf tournament. So Michael's going to be up there. And so she goes up to Las Vegas, and she hopes to meet him. There's a way that she can meet. but there's a big crowd. There's a crowd wherever he is on the course. So she writes this note, and she hands this note to one of the security people to give to Michael. And it says, "Hello, Michael. I think you're the most sexiest man alive. My name is Isabella, and I am from Miami. However, I attend UCLA. Call me. I would love to show you a good time." And she gives 2 phone numbers there. So that is passed it to a security person, and she says, please give that to Michael Douglas. It's very, very important. And that security person does, gives it to Michael Douglas, and Michael Douglas gives it to his security people because he notices it has several phone numbers there. And later on, the security checks out those phone numbers. And one is to a landline, and the other is to a cell phone. So they're able to track that down, and when they do, they find that it comes back to a Danette K. And this is where she lives, in Beverly Hills. So the police get a search warrant for her apartment there. And when they go into the apartment, they do a search, and the search of the computer. And sure enough, on the computer is all this information about both of them. Michael Douglas, the golf tournament in Las Vegas, Zeta Jones, everywhere they're going, everything that they're doing. So this is very good information. But what else was found there, which is chilling, is these photographs are found. Now, you're going to say, well, they're not good quality. Of course, they're not good quality. The stalker took these photographs. The stalker went all the way to Toronto, Canada, for a book signing. And there you can see Catherine Zeta-Jones and Michael Douglas and Kurt Douglas. She's within maybe, 15 feet of Catherine Zeta-Jones, the person that she wants to kill. Wow. Anyway, putting the case together, I wanted the jury to see that, people are going to have sympathy for Danette, say, well, she just misguided, and maybe she didn't do it. But I wanted them to see that we had DNA from the envelope, where she licked the envelope. It was her DNA. We have her fingerprints. We have handwriting. We have all sorts of evidence to show that she wrote all of those threatening letters. And this I laid out so that the jury would see which letters were they and what did they pertain to. A preliminary hearing that was set, and Catherine Zeta-Jones came in and she testified. And she testified saying, I felt overwhelming fear after learning about the death threats contained in these letters. And then she went on to say, I was so shaken that I came close to a nervous breakdown and feared I was going to have a heart attack. And it really did affect her, physically and mentally. Now the defense, their claim was, just a misunderstanding that she was having an affair with Michael. Okay, so that's what was going on. Well, there's no proof of that, contrary to that. And later on, before trial, the day the trial was set, the stalker came in, pled guilty to 1 count of stalking and 3 counts of criminal threat. So that's what happened. In the sentencing of the stalker, Catherine said, you have profoundly affected me in how I conduct my life. Your actions will be with me the rest of my life. Now I will be constantly observing, looking over my shoulder. And she was sentenced to 3 years in state prison. What type of stalker was she? Well, she is classified as a resentful stalker, pursuing a vendetta to get rid of Catherine because she considered her an obstacle, blocking her from her objective, meaning loving Michael Douglas. Now, as far as the stalking part to Michael Douglas, she would be qualified as an incompetent suitor. She had a fixation for Michael, and the other intimacy seeker, she wanted to have an intimate relationship with Michael Douglas. So, stalking of the stars. You all wanted to be celebrities. Well, here's Madonna's case, Catherine Zeta-Jones' case. Do you really want to be a celebrity? Maybe not. You may want to think it over. And if you want more information on it, my book, I've written on it, is Celebrity Curse. And I talk about the stalking of cases of Madonna, a number of other Zeta-Jones, Mel Gibson, Cusack, and even Spielberg. So if you really want to find out about stalking, get my book, Celebrity Curse. Well, hopefully you found this episode interesting and informative. Click our subscribe buttons in order to learn when our next podcast will be out. Generally, we have a new one every Friday at 3 p.m. So join us then for another True Crime Files of Los Angeles when we discuss another case from beginning to end. We'll see you then.